Is my screen visible to you all, guys?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yesterday we have discussed this data warehousing concepts. So this is the definition of data warehouse. So if any one of you are freshers, then definitely uh, it's an important thing for you to learn. So as we discussed, a data warehouse is a subject-oriented, integrated, time variant, non-volatile collection of data. That means it has the data of different subjects, and all those are integrated and time variant. So non-volatile is you cannot change the data which is present in the data warehouse. Since it's a historical data, mostly you'll be storing in the data warehouse. Coming into the data model, the data modeling which we use is the dimension data modeling. In the dimension data modeling, we'll be having two different types of tables. Those are dimensions and facts. So coming to dimensions, dimension tables are the tables which holds the detailed description of the facts.
Sorry for disturb. I have a question.
Oh yeah.
Why we use the data warehouse and when we use the data warehouse?
Oh Gaurav, did you attend yesterday's class?
No. I missed because I today for the today I will continue.
Okay. So basically, this data warehouse is used to store historical data.
Mhm.
So it's an OLAP where, see, I have covered this concept, Gaurav. You can just go back to the previous videos and see because I can't tell you this thing in just in
Okay.
minutes. Okay. Yeah.
So in
So
short,
base
you can in
yeah,
short.
in short, it's an OLAP, which is an analytical processing system where you'll be having a historical data for doing your analysis. So whenever the business people wants to get any business insights, they will be doing analysis from the data warehouse. Since the data warehouse will be having the historical data, so from there they'll be connecting to the data warehouse and doing the analysis and gain insights from it and take business decisions from there. So further things you can see, go back to the back previous videos and check there, Gaurav. So in short, it's just it holds the historical data. That's it, and it's used for analytics.
It store the structure unstructured या both data it store in a data warehouse.
So based upon yeah. So if you take a data warehouse, it will be storing only the structured data. So if you take a data lake, then it will be
Okay.
storing the unstructured, semi-structured, and structured any kind of data. A data lake can hold any kind of data.
Means after the transformation, we store the data in data warehouse.
Yes. So if you want to store the raw data, then you'll go for the data lake.
It is used only for the store the data, structured data, or other means other any use of this data.
So I have covered all this in previous videos, Gaurav. You can just go through those videos, and if
Okay,
you have any
okay,
doubts,
fine,
you can
okay,
come back.
fine. Sorry. Continue. I will say no previous data. No.
Yeah. No issues. So you can go through the previous videos. So if you have any doubts, we can again discuss it. Okay. So coming to the yesterday's class, so we have two different types of tables. Those are dimension tables and the fact tables. In the dimension tables, we'll store the descriptive characteristics of the fact tables, whereas the fact table contains the measures like quantity and price, quantity, those all. So there are three types of schema: star schema, snowflake schema, and hybrid schema. In star schema, fact will be surrounded by the dimension tables. Coming to the snowflake schema, dimension to dimension relationship is also possible in the snowflake schema, whereas in star schema, dimension to dimension relationship will not be present. That is the reason the star schema is more efficient when compared to the snowflake schema. And galaxy schema is nothing but it's a combination of snowflake and star schema. So these are all, and coming to facts, we have these are all the types of dimensions we have already discussed, and we also have the different types of facts. So additive facts on which you can perform the aggregations, those are called as additive facts. And for when you are able to perform the aggregations only on few facts, and those are called as semi-additive. And if you are not able to perform any aggregations, then it will be considered as a non-additive fact. So these are some other facts. Yeah, think yeah, we can start our session now. So in today's class, we'll be creating our first pipeline. Before that, we'll be going through some what are the frequently used activities. As we have discussed that activity is nothing but it's an action step in a pipeline. Mm, yeah, let me share. So first, we'll cover these all activities and frequently used activities. Uh, just to touch upon what are the frequently used activities, and then we'll be moving to the first pipeline creation. Okay. So as we already discussed, like as part of the main components of Azure Data Factory, we have discussed what is an activity. So it is just an action. Activity refers to an action step inside a pipeline. So whenever you create a pipeline, it will have multiple activities which perform an action step in that pipeline. So if you want to perform a series of activities which together perform a task, then you create a pipeline, and inside that pipeline we will be keeping all those activities which perform the task for us. So there are many activities which are available for us. I'll show you them. So based upon the requirement, we'll be using the activities which we want. So these are some of the frequently used activities. So in the interviews, they'll be asking you like what are the activities on which you have worked. So you can tell all these, you can go through this document and tell them that you have used. So coming to this append variable, yeah, I've told you that there are many activities which are available. Let's see in the Azure portal. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yeah, yes, sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's create our data factory. So what is the first thing?
Resource
Resource
group.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah, before that you need to select the subscription. Our subscription is a free trial subscription, and now we'll be creating a resource group. So this is the resource group and the data factory. So these are all something there is energy. So basically in the in real time you need not create these, the administrator will be taking care of all these creations. But you should just be aware, like what are we doing now is just enough for your awareness. So yeah, frequently used activities is the first one is append variable activities. So whenever you create a pipeline, you can create variables. Let me launch the studio, then we'll see.
Actually, I have a question. In the real scenario, we same use the same concept of the creating the pipeline as you did like this.
Like,
My question is, in real scenario, we join the company and same process we have to process. We follow the as you like as you doing
yeah,
like.
you won't be creating these resources, you will be only creating the pipelines and few other things. Yeah.
Okay.
So whenever you want to create a pipeline, you have to click on this three dots, and then you can create a new pipeline here. So first, basically, so once you create the pipeline only, then you will be able to see what are the list of activities which are available for you. So here you can find many activities here. They are again categorized. All these activities are categorized like this, so that it will be easy for us to find when you're searching for it. So move and transform, that is if you want to move the data from any place from source to destination, then you'll be using this copy data activity. And transformations, to perform any transformations, you will be using this data flow activities. And all the activities related to synapse are present here. And so for the data functions and likewise all these are present. Okay. So copy activity, data flows, these are the most frequently used one. So first let's discuss on, let me share my screen. Yeah, here as you can see, the first activity which we are going to discuss is the append variable activity. So append variable activity could be used to add a value to the existing array variable defined in the Azure Data Factory pipeline. So like when you write a program in Java or C, what you do, you can define the variables. So likewise, in Azure Data Factory also, whenever you create a pipeline, you will have an ability to create the variables. So when this append variable activity is used is, so whenever you create a variable which is of type array, then to add the values into this array, you will be using this append variable activity. So let's see how it looks in the portal. Yeah, here. So once you create a pipeline, then only you'll be able to see the activities tab here. So yeah, let's take an example of this copy data activity. So as I've told you, so once you create a pipeline, then you will be able to see this thing. And also, like a program, this pipeline also gives us an ability to um, create parameters variables. See, parameters concept is also present in our programming languages. So likewise here also parameters and variables are present. So coming to now, we are discussing that append variable activity, no? So for a pipe inside a pipeline, you can create these variables. So let's create a variable. For example, see, this is a marks. Let's take this is a marks and see what are the data types. So whenever there is a variable, you should also be able to define what kind of type is that, what kind of the data type is that variable is of. So here, if we take marks, so we have to, since we have to store the marks of different subjects, we will be creating this marks variable as an array. So what are all the data types which are supported by this variables is string, boolean and array. Only these three types of variables are supported. Okay. So if you declare this marks variable as an array, so in order to add values to this marks array, you will be using an activity called as, so if you want to search any activities, you can, here you have a search tab. So here you can search for it. So append variable. So this. So if you want to add any values to that marks array, you should use this append variable activity. So in this append variable activity, under the settings, you can select the what is that variable. So what is the variable which we have created, which is of type array? we'll be getting all this as recommendations. Since we have declared this mark as an array, that is the reason we are able to see here. So if at all we have created some other ones also, see, we have created an array. So if we create another one, another variable called name, and it's of type string. Now if you click on the above variables, you won't be able to see that name. Why are you not able to see that name as a recommendation, name variable as a recommendation? Because this name is of type string. So only variables which are declared as an array you will be able to see under this activity. Since the marks variable is declared as an array, you are able to see this as a recommendation to you. So yeah, so then you can
I
give
have
a
one question.
value.
Why? Because string is also a variable, right?
Yeah, string is also a variable. But why are you using this append variable activity? This append variable activity is used to add values, append values to an array, only to an array. So
Okay.
whenever
For
you want
string,
to
we have
append
some
value,
other activity, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So this append variable activity is specifically, its purpose is meant for appending values to an array. Since marks variable is of type array, you are getting this marks as a suggestion for you, and you can select this marks, and you can enter the value which you want to append to the marks array. So this is all about the append variable. So coming to the next activity. Yeah. So the second activity is set variable activity. So what is the set variable activity is? See, here I have depend. Someone have asked me why are you not able to see that string is? It is used to add value to an existing array variable. Okay. So only to an array variable. This activity works only for an array variable. So coming to the second activity, it is a set variable activity. So set variable activity can be used to set the value for an existing variable of type string, boolean, or array defined in the Azure Data. So for this activity, using this set variable activity, you will be able to access any variable which is of kind string or boolean or array. All these three kind of variables you can access in this activity, set variable activity. Let's see in practical.
Actually, I have a question. Why we use the append variable, set variable? This is the column type of the variable, or means.
Yeah, that we'll see. While we are creating the pipelines, you'll come to know, Gaurav.
Okay.
So coming to the set variable activity. So whatever activity you want, you can search here. So here we can copy paste the set variable. You can just whatever activities you want to use, you can just drag and drop those activities here. This is called the canvas, the white space which you are able to see. This entire thing is called the canvas. So anything you want to use inside your pipeline, you can drag those activities into the canvas. So if you click on the set variable activities, then under the settings, so see a variable type, it's a pipeline variables. So inside the pipeline only you are creating the variables. So name, if you see now you can see both the marks and name variables. So marks variable is of type array and name is of type string. So the variables can be of any kind. Those you will be able to see under the set variable activity. So you can select the variable and you can assign like so what is happening here, using the set variable activity you are assigning value to this variable. So now this name variable will contain the value Rama. So that is about this set variable activity.
only string kind of value can be stored here,
No,
or
no,
any other kind of?
all the three can be accessed.
No, in set variable, only string can be added, or any other kind of object also can be added.
So based on how you define that variable, see, one second, I'll show you. Set variable activity. Here, if you see, you can access name, and you will be able to store only the value as a string. You should store only a string value here. Why? Because you have declared this name variable as a string. You have already declared that the name is going to store a value which is of type string. That is why you will be only storing a string value. If you won't store a string value, and if you store the other value, then it will throw an error. Okay, is it clear?
Yeah. Can we
Yeah.
hold any object here?
See, objects in the sense like
Any expression object?
any.
Any expression object?
No, no, no. You won't be able to store it. You can't store it. Only, even if you store it, it should be of type string. So now coming to the next activity, it is the execute pipeline activity. So this execute pipeline activity allows the Azure Data Factory pipeline to invoke another pipeline. So if at all, in any case, in any situation or scenario, you would like to execute a pipeline inside another pipeline, then you will be using an activity called as the execute pipeline activity. So this is the activity, it's execute pipeline activity. So here, under the settings, you should select the pipeline which you want to execute. Since we don't have all other pipelines, we only have a single pipeline, we are not getting other. So if at all we create the other pipeline, so now we have two pipelines now. So now we will get an option. So why do we use this execute pipeline activities? To execute a pipeline from another pipeline. We are executing this pipeline 2 from pipeline 1. So if at all you want to execute a pipeline from another pipeline, you will be using this execute pipeline activity. Okay. Are you guys able to understand?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yes,
Whatever
yes,
we
yes.
have discussed, are you guys in line with me?
Yeah.
Yes, actually, once you start taking by taking any example, then it will be more clear. Now we are able to understand, but take one.
Yeah, just I'm just giving a a just
Yeah,
an
yeah,
intro kind
correct.
of
That's
thing,
what.
so that
Now
these
we are
all
able to
things.
understand, but exactly if you take some task and
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
perform them,
yes, yes. While we go through the tasks, you will be we'll be using all of this in those tasks. Then you will come to know like why and where are we using these. Just to give an upper overview of all these things, and also in interview perspective, um, I want you guys to learn this. So that's why I have created this document and just going through all this. So if
Executive
condition,
pipeline is the I have a
hmm,
question. Executive pipeline is the middle connection between the two pipelines.
no, no. If you want to execute a pipeline from another pipeline, then you'll use this execute pipeline activity.
Any operation will be performed on executive pipeline, or means we only connect the other pipeline.
So this execute
And
pipeline
we
activity
perform
is
the
just used to execute that pipeline. That's it. It will only execute.
okay, okay, fine.
So next, coming to, yeah, if condition. So if condition is one of the activities. It has the same functionality as the if condition, which we have in the programming languages. So it's an activity which allows us to, it directs the pipeline execution based upon the evaluation of a certain expression. So if a certain expression turns out to be true, then what flow it should execute, and if that expression turns out to be false, then what flow it should execute. So if that is the scenario, based on a condition, if you want to define the execution of pipeline, then you will go and use this if condition activity. I'm sorry, here we should search. Yeah, so this is our if condition activity. So here what you'll do, you'll give an expression. So if this expression turns out to be, what should, which activities to get executed, and if the expression turns out to be false, which activities should get executed, you'll be writing them here. It is just the same as the if condition which we use in our programming languages. And coming to the other ones, so get metadata, as we have as we all know that what is metadata, it is the data about data. So if we take a file named station or something, so that file, if we take organization.csv, so whether this organization.csv is a file or a folder, so these all kind of data will come under the data metadata. So when this file got created, which is the file format of this file, so these all things come under the metadata. So if you want to get all the details of that particular file or anything, then you use this get metadata activity. So if you want to know is that particular organization.csv is a file or not, and what is its created date, so all to know all that metadata of a particular file or anything, then you will be using this get metadata activity. uh, and for each activity, so when will you use this for each activity, it is also same as in the programming language. If you want to repeatedly perform same activities again and again, then you will go for this for each activity. So once we'll discuss three and then go back to the portal and check them. For each activity, if you want to repeatedly perform anything, then you will use this for each activity. And you also know how many times repeatedly you want to perform that activity, then you will choose this for each activity. If you are not aware of how many times to perform the task repeatedly, then you will go and use this until activity. So if you are not sure about how many times to execute that flow repeatedly, then you will use until. If you are sure how many times that flow should be repeated, then you will go for this for each activity. So this copy activity, you'll use this copy activity to move anything from a source to destination, and this is the most used activity. So in most of the scenarios, you will be using this copy activity. Yeah, so get metadata for each and copy activity. Now let's see. So coming to this get metadata, want to know any details of anything, then you will select. So if you take a blob storage, you have stored a file in the blob storage and you want to know all the details of that particular file, then you will use this get metadata. So this I have told you that data set is a pointer, so you will point to that particular file, and then you will see all the metadata related to it. And we have discussed get metadata and for each. for each. So when will you use this for each is if you want to repeatedly perform anything, any activities which you want to repeatedly perform, you will give this those all activities inside a for each loop. So it will iterate that many times. And coming to the copy data activity, it is a mostly used activity. So whenever you want to move the data from source to destination, so here you will be giving all the source details and here you will be giving the sync details. So just you are moving the data from source to destination. In such cases, you will be going with the copy data activity. For each. Now coming to lookup activity. So lookup activity, whenever you have a scenario wherein you want to use the output of a query or only the subset of a file, you don't want to use the entire file, you want to use only the sub data present in that file, then you will be using this lookup activity. The case where you won't use the entire data, you just retrieve a data set from the existing data and you want to use that subset of data, then you will be using this lookup activity. And coming to filter activity, so if you want to filter the data based upon certain conditions and expressions, then you will use this filter activity. And until activity, as we have discussed, if you are aware of how many number of iterations we want to perform, then we'll go with this for each activity. If you're not aware of how many number of iterations you want to perform, you will use this until activity, wherein you will be giving a condition. So based on that condition, the iteration will go on and stop if the condition turns out to be false. So coming to wait activity, and if you want to wait, so if you want to make want your pipeline to wait, for example, you want to execute your pipeline only after the file comes, so in such case you want that pipeline to wait. So in such cases you will be using this wait activity, wherein you will be giving the time for which how much time you want that pipeline to wait. You will configure that time here in the wait activity. And coming to this web activity, so when to use this web activities, when you are dealing with the REST APIs, whenever you are getting the data from the REST APIs. And also in Azure Data Factory, there is no free activity which is provided by the Azure Data Factory to send the emails. So in such cases, you will be using the Azure Logic Apps. So to call that Logic Apps and to send the mail, then also you'll be using this web activity. And Azure Functions is, so if you can perform any task without using all these activities, just you can write only a small piece of code and get your work done. So in such cases, you will be writing a small piece of code in the Azure Functions activity and execute that activity. And the data flows is where you can graphically perform the transformation. So instead of writing, so if we use the SQL, what we write the queries to transform our data. So if you do not want to write your queries and graphically perform transformations on your data, you can go for the data flows. Okay, so these are all just there is nothing much to like drag drop and show you the details about these all activities. So once you see them, you can understand. So once we work on practicals, then we'll go in detail, and you'll get more clarity then. Okay, so these are all okay. Did you all get just like a general idea? So these are all the kind of activities. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Ma'am,
Yes.
this activity you will use in real scenario means.
Yes.
Okay.
So Midun, do you have any doubt?
No, Shishra. Yes, I can.
Yeah. 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 Okay. You just unmuted yourself, so that's why I'm asking. Okay. Then now today let's go to the practical. Let's create our first pipeline. So you guys able to see the portal, the Azure?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So before creating that our first pipeline, so just wanted to tell this small concept. So if at all you want to establish the connection between the two activities, so these are all the things you have. How many options? One, two, three, four. These are the four options which are available to you to connect an activity to another activity. So what is this first one? First one is on skip. So if at all you skip this activity, then to execute the next preceding ones. So this is how you establish the connection between them. So on, if you skip this activity, then this activity gets executed. So other one which is available is on success. So once this activity gets successfully completed, so completion doesn't matter. On successful completion of this activity, you want to execute another activity. So then you will use this on success. So once you click on the activity, you will be getting these four options. So the third one is on failure. So on failure of this activity. So for example, in the real time scenario, so if your pipeline gets failed, on failure of that pipeline, you need to send mail. So what you'll do here, you will click, and from here you will join it to the next activity. And the other one is on completion. So what is the difference between all the this on success, on fail, and on completion? So what is this on completion is, once the pipeline execution gets completed, so regardless, even if your pipeline fails or it gets succeeded, it doesn't matter. Once it gets completed, then you execute this the next activity. That is the meaning of on completion. So what is on completion? It doesn't affect failure or success, doesn't matter to it, only completion matters to it. So once it gets completed, then execute the next activity. Okay, are these clear?
Yes, it's a small doubt that
Yeah, yeah.
success, completion, fail understood, but on skip means the scenario I can't understand. On skip
So
means we
on
have
script,
to add.
so if at all, see here we are having these three activities. So in some scenario wherein all three are connected, but due to some reason this did not get executed, so you are skipping this. So you are skipping this execution of this. You are not executing this. So in such case, what happens is directly executes this.
Okay,
Okay.
so that means in our SSIS and all we are disabling some uh,
Yeah. Bypass.
that,
Yeah, I think it
yeah. Okay.
bypass. Yeah.
So,
So in such situations, yes, you can compare that to this. Yes. Excuse me. Yeah. So these are the four types of you know what we call the workflows. So flow. So what are the types of flows using which you can connect to the other activities? Is there are four types of flows. So on skip, on completion, on failure, and on completion. Okay, these are the four types of flow. So okay, now let's create our first pipeline. So what is our task here is, we should move. Let me take a paint and explain you. So our scenario here is we need to move the data from blob storage to Azure Data Lake storage. So what is our source here? So what is our source here?
Blob.
So here our source is blob. So here I'm having my storage account and here I'm having my storage account. So in this storage account, I have a blob. So here it's a data lake storage. And inside, yes, blob storage. And this is another storage account which I have created. And this is the Azure Data Lake storage. So inside the blob, I have a file called organization. So what is my requirement here is I want to move this organization file from here, that is the blob storage, to the Azure Data Lake storage. The first thing, so which activity will be used to move the
Copy.
data from source to destination?
Copy activity.
Yeah. So copy activity is the one which we'll be using. So this copy activity will do the work for us. So now, okay, we have this copy activity, we have a source, and we have destination. So we have to tell the copy activity which is the source. So how will you tell? Using what? We have discussed five components. So among
Link.
all those five components, which is used as a connection string, which holds the
Linked
connection information?
linked service.
Yes. So linked service is the one which holds the connection information. So you will be creating a linked service to the source. So in the similar ways, you need to create a linked service for this destination. A linked service. So this linked service will establish the connection between the copy activity and the source, that is blob, and this linked service will establish the connection between the copy activity and this destination, which is the Azure Data Lake storage. So next, okay, we have established the connection. So through this linked service, we have established the connection to the blob storage. But we need to specifically point to this organization file. So if you want to refer, if you want to point to a particular file, which is the service which we use for it?
Container something.
Data set.
So we have discussed five components. What are those five components? Anyone?
Data set. Linked services.
Yeah. Next.
Container.
Figure.
Activities. Pipelines.
Hmm.
Access
So
key.
among those, which is the one which is used as a pointer? Linked service is a connection string.
Data set.
So
Data set.
Data set.
yes, data set is
Content.
the pointer. So if here you want to specifically point to a specific point, a specific file. So how to point to a specific file using the, so here through linked service. So inside the linked service, using this linked service, then specifically how will you point to the specific file is through linked service, through data set. Okay, similar ways. So using this linked service, what happens, uh, you will be able to connect this copy activity to the Azure Data Lake storage. But here your requirement is you want to put that file um, which you picked the file which you have picked from this blob storage, you want to put that file inside the Azure Data Lake storage. So inside the Azure Data Lake storage, you'll be having the containers. So here you will use an data set again, but the data set here points to the container. So here copy activity through linked services through datasets points through the container. So here a container will be present. So it points to the container. The datasets points to the container. Okay. So this is what we are going to do. Is it clear for everyone? Here also we'll be having inside the blob, we'll be having a container. Inside that container, so you'll be having this file. Okay, is
Yes,
it
yes,
clear to everyone?
Yes,
yes.
yes, we will have to use two linked service for this scenario. I think, no?
Yes, because we are using different storage accounts. So this is a different storage account. This is the storage account one, and this is storage account two. We are using two different storage accounts, and this is blob and this is Azure Data Lake storage. So that is the reason we are using two different linked services. So if you are moving the data within the same blob, so within the different containers, you have container 1 and container 2. So if you are moving the data from container 1 to container 2, so all these blobs and containers, everything is present in the single storage account. That is so if that's the case, then you can use only a single linked service. Since we are having our source and destination in different storage accounts, we will be using two linked services. Okay, is it clear, everyone?
Yep.
Yeah, now let's start our practical. So here let's create a new pipeline. So what is this pipeline? We are moving this pipeline from, we are moving the data from blob to Azure Data Lake storage. Okay, so which is the activity which we are using for it? What's the activity name?
Copy activity.
Get meta.
Yes, copy activity. So once you click on the copy activity, you will be getting all these settings. So first thing is you need to give a name to the copy activity. Copy data from blob to ADLS. So coming to the source. So what is our source? We have not created any, we don't have any. So let's see. Coming to home. Let's create a storage account. We need to create two storage accounts. So in our scenario, we are having two. So we'll duplicate the same. You can right click here and you can duplicate the tab. So here same. We know the subscription and the resource group, and the storage account name here is source. So these are we have discussed this premium, all those things. So the main thing which we need to, which you are concerned about this first account is the blob. So we don't enable this hierarchical namespace. We can skip all this and yeah, once it will perform the validations. So once it passes all these validations, you can create.
Enable hierarchy means name.
Yeah, someone is saying something.
Enable hierarchy. Why we not use the enable hierarchy? Means what is the role of this?
What is the use? What is the role of
Enable hierarchy. You
Gaurav?
don't you don't check on the enable hierarchy.
Yeah, Gaurav, you can once go through all the previous classes, Gaurav,
Okay, okay.
because we
You
have
are
covered
also
all.
okay. Okay, you already
See, yeah, yeah. So
okay.
if you want to create, I'll show you. Anyways, we will be doing this. So see, if this hierarchical namespace is disabled, then the blob service gets created for you. So if you enable that
Okay,
hierarchical namespace, then Azure Data Lake storage will be created. So we have created the blob storage. Now we should create the Azure Data Lake storage.
okay, okay.
So here we should enable this hierarchical namespace. Why? Why are we enabling this hierarchical namespace? What is the difference?
Because we make the directory and this ADLS, I think.
Anyone?
Blob and data lake.
Yes. So if you want to create an data lake, then you will be enabling that hierarchical namespace. So here we have created two storage accounts. One is for blob, and the other storage is the Azure Data Lake storage, which is getting created. So first, as our source already got created here, so source will be creating a container. So this is the one we have created a container. So container here are just like a folders in our file system. So we have created a folder. So what is the difference between a blob and a data lake storage? So in which can we create the subfolders? Is it blob or
In blob we can't create, but in data lake we can create the subfolders.
yes? So in the source container, we are uploading a file.
Sisira, can you like show me the container creation one more time, please? Sorry.
Oh yeah. So here in the Azure Data Lake storage, we'll be creating. It's the same for blob and Azure Data Lake. Then I'll be showing. Okay.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Container creation is same in blob and Azure Data Lake. So here, this is our file. Ah, the same error which we got for the first time. So in the meanwhile, let's create this container here. So here we can see a data lake storage got created because we have enabled the hierarchical namespace. So here let's upload the file. So whenever you get that fetch error, it's related to your internet connection. Just you can refresh the page and then if you re-upload, it gets uploaded. Yeah. So just if you get that fetch error, unable to fetch error, you just refresh your page and then re-upload the file. Now our file got uploaded. So this is the file which is of CSV. So and the tire, it is present in the hard tire. Okay. So if you click on it, Here you can see the versions and everything. So here if you click on edit, you can see data. This is the data which is present in the file. So yeah, so here if you see the data, the first line is header. It is contained in the header information. So just remember that thing. And then here coming to the destination. So what is our destination? It is a blob or Azure Data Lake storage. So what is the destination? What is our destination?
Data
Azure
lake
Lake
store.
Yeah. So here someone have asked me like how to create a container. So here you will be having all these options. So you can go to containers and plus you will be have this, you'll be having this icon. Then click here and you can give the name. ADLS container create. Yeah. A container got created for us. So we are ready with the source. So source, where is our source? This is our source container. Inside our source container, we are having this file organization. In our destination, we have a container called ADLS container. So inside this container, we don't have anything. Our task here is to move this organization file from this source container to ADLS container, ADLS day9 container. Okay. So here, so the first we need to, so here you should click on the copy activity, then you'll get all these options available for you. So the first thing you should give the source here. So data set is what? It will point to the file or anything which is referred, which is described by the linked service. So for the data set to work, we should have a linked service. So we don't have this data set also. Let's create a data set here. So you can create all these data sets on fly, or you can go here to the settings and first create them there and you can use them here. So now we are creating all the data sets and linked services on the fly. So what is this data set? So where are we having our source file? Here you need to select. So these are all the connections through which you can get your data. You can get the data from Amazon Redshift, you can get from Amazon S3, Cosmos DB, so Databricks, Delta Lake, Synapse, Cassandra. So you can collect, these are all the different sources you from which you can get the data from. You can get the data from Teradata, Spark, Zoho, Webtable, Sybase, Snowflake. So you can connect through all these applications and get the data. So here, where our source is present, it is present in the Azure. So here they have categorized it. Instead of going to all and searching them all, you can directly come to Azure. And since our data is present in Azure itself, so where is our data? It is in the blob storage. So you'll be selecting this Azure blob storage. Continue. So once you click on continue, it will ask you, these are all the kinds of files which are supported by the this copy data activity. So which kind of our file? So what kind
CSV.
of our file we having? We are having
CSV.
CSV file. So yeah, CSV. See, it's the delimited text file and the delimited is a comma. That is CSV. Continue. So here, as I have told you, we should have a linked service. So we have also don't we have not created any linked service. We are creating the linked services on fly. So we should click on new. So once you click on new, see the integration runtime which is used is auto resolve integration runtime. Who will provide the auto resolve integration runtime? Is it we or Azure?
Azure.
Yeah. So connection string subscription. What is the subscription? So we should perform the authentication. To establish the connection, we need to perform the authentication. So for those, we need to fill all these details. So what is the subscription? This is the free trial subscription which we are using. So once you give your subscription here, it will show you all the storage account names for which you are having the access. So we have two storage accounts. So among these, which is our source? Blob is our
Mm,
source. So we'll select the storage account. So once you select the storage account, directly you will be getting the connection string. You are not entering anything manually. So here you can also enter the manually. So if you enter manually, you should enter the storage account name and you should pass the storage account key. So we have discussed this concept of keys. So where will we have, you should come to this access policy. So not access policy, one second. So blob storage, access keys. So in this access keys, we have discussed these keys now. How we'll get this security? So then we got these two keys. One among these keys, we can copy. So once you click on show, you can copy here and you can paste this key here. So instead of doing all these things from Azure subscription, so if you select from Azure subscription, you can directly select the account name. It will directly take those. So instead of enter manually, you can directly take this. So the other one is through Key Vault. So this thing we will be seeing after we cover the concept of Key Vault. So for now, we'll be selecting this connection string as our thing, and then yeah, create. So connection will be automatically tested. You need not test it manually. So here we linked service got created now. So what happened? The connection got established between the storage account and the copy data activity. Now we need to select where exactly the data is present. So source container, inside the source container, this is the CSV file. This is the file. So here what are we doing? We are creating the data set. So exactly we are pointing to this specific file. We are giving that. So first thing, that is what I have asked you to remember. If we see the file, then the first row is header. So if your file contains the first row as a header, you need to check this box. So once you check this checkbox, so now we are all set for it. You can click on OK. So now your source is ready. You have created the data set on fly and you have also created the linked services on fly. So you can preview the data from here. So see, since we have clicked on, we have checked that checkbox which tells like the first row is a header. That is the reason you have got here. The header has been selected for you. So in case if you don't select, if you don't check that checkbox, then you won't get this as a header. It will also be coming as a record. Since we have checked that checkbox, we have we are able to see here this the first record as the header. So now we should select the sync. So sync also we don't have anything. We should create the data set for sync. So what is our destination? It is the Azure Data Lake storage. So then the same CSV file we are moving to the Azure Data Lake storage. Then click on continue. Linked service also we are creating it on fly. So you guys should tell me now. Which is the storage account name which we are sending to? What's our destination storage account name?
LDLS.
Hmm.
Source of yeah, destination.
Yeah. So our linked service got created and coming to the file path. So you now the connection got established, but under which container you want this file to get copied? So we have to select the container. This is the container under which we want that file to get copied. So now you can click OK. So you can click first row as header and click OK. Yeah. So now we are all set. Now, there are three ways. This is also an interview question. Like, what are the ways in which you can execute your pipeline? There are three ways in which we can execute our pipeline. One is through debug mode. So, when you will use, they'll ask you when to go with the debug mode. So, whatever you want to save, so whatever you have created and whatever you have developed, if you want to save all those things, you should publish them. So, before publishing, you want to execute any pipeline without publishing. That is, without saving, you want to execute any pipeline, then you go for debug. So before debugging, you should validate. You should just click on validate. So once your validation, so pipeline validation output, pipeline has validated successfully. So then you can click on the debug option. So here you can see, once you click on debug, your pipeline starts its execution. So here we can see that it is executing. This is the symbol of executing. Now we can see it got a green mark, which means this, it got successfully executed. So let's see. So whenever a pipeline gets created, you will get a pipeline run ID. This is a unique ID that is through which you will identify the pipeline runs. So these are the details of the source. So you can see source, what kind of file it is. It is a delimited text file, and you'll have all the details regarding the source. And this is the destination. This is the output. So you'll have all the output details here. So how to monitor this pipeline execution is, you can go to this monitor tab, and here in the monitor tab, so here you can see the debug. See, we have debugged that pipeline. Our pipeline name is this. So here you can see the status, everything you can see here. So this is our pipeline name. This is the time which it started. This is the time it ended. It ran for 12 seconds and the status is succeeded. And how did we trigger? We triggered it manually. And this is the run ID. So yeah, we will see that output in few minutes. So I have told you that there are three ways in which you can execute your pipeline. The first one is debug, and the second and third one is using triggers. Trigger now and using other triggers. There are three types of triggers. So using triggers, trigger now, and debug. These are three options. So what are the three options? What are the three options using which you can execute your pipeline?
Debug, trigger, and
Event schedule.
scheduler. No,
Debug, trigger, and
trigger,
trigger now.
trigger now. Okay.
Yeah, using triggers. So new and editors, you will be creating a new trigger. So these are the three ways: debug, trigger now, and using triggers. Three ways in which you can execute your pipeline. So our copy activity got successfully executed. Our first pipeline got successfully executed. Now we can open back the destination and check whether the file got copied to the destination container or not. So we have opened our destination container, that is the ADLS container. So we are able to see the organization.csv file. So it's been copied from blob storage to Azure Data Lake storage. Okay. Any doubts?
Ma'am, actually, can
We
you
have
explain
just done
again?
a basic pipeline, which is just moving a file from blob storage to Azure Data Lake storage.
Can you
Yeah, any
explain
doubts,
again?
guys?
Ma'am, can you explain the sync, why we use the sync? Means, can you explain again?
Sync, the meaning of sync is destination. Here our source is blob storage and our destination is Azure Data Lake storage. So whatever you want your destination to be, that thing you will be giving in the sync.
Okay.
So any doubts, guys? It's just a basic pipeline.
So, like before running that pipeline, so you mentioned about the publishing, right?
Yeah,
So, if you want to run in other modes like trigger and trigger now, so at that
yeah.
time
Can
also we
you?
have to publish that one.
Yeah, yeah. So one more thing I forgot to tell is, so now I have created a pipeline, and if I close my Azure Data Factory, this pipeline won't be available again if I open this Azure Data Factory, because I have not saved my pipeline. So once I publish the pipeline, fix it before source data set is required. So here we have created few more pipelines while while explaining, you guys know we have to delete all those pipelines because those are invalid pipelines which I've created. So that is the reason we it is throwing an error. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So that is your answer. Someone have asked. So once you publish means saving. So once only you save your pipelines, then they'll get saved. I mean, once you publish your pipelines, then they'll get saved. So if you won't publish your pipelines, then they won't get saved. So that is the reason for publishing. And coming to this triggers and trigger now, you won't be able to perform these two. You should once publish. So once you publish only, then you can use this triggers and trigger now.
So like
Okay,
once I publish, I can't use debug mode.
you can use.
Okay.
So if at all you want to run your pipelines without publishing, then you'll use this debug mode. So even after publishing also, you can use the debug mode.
Okay. Okay.
In case of not, if if your requirement is not to save, just you want, you are testing, like you have created and just you are seeing, you are developing it. So then you don't want to save your pipelines and just want to check whether it's working fine or not, then you will go for this debug mode. Okay, any doubts? Any more doubts, guys?
Nothing much for me, Cicera.
Yeah. So is it good? How is the class today? It's your first pipeline creation.
I'm just waiting on for pipeline 1 and 2 to be deleted. I just want to see those.
Ma'am,
Close it
suppose
straight away.
we
Okay. How can we publish only one pipeline instead of publish all?
So once you publish, what happens is everything which you have done gets published here. See here.
I think whatever
Okay.
available in the
Into
canvas, it
the
will
library.
be
Yeah.
published.
Yes. See, you can see here. You are about to publish all the pending changes to the live environment. So here I'm publishing. Yeah.
And Cecilia, one more thing. Maybe it is too early to ask, but that is fine. Like, so I have seen some notepad executions and like, are you going to cover that part?
Yeah, notepad executor. Those are all notebooks. Those are called notebooks.
No,
Those
sorry. Yeah,
notebooks,
notebooks. Correct.
yeah, those notebooks are part of Azure Databricks. So
Okay.
Databricks is where you have those all notebooks. Azure Data Factory, we won't be having any notebooks. But the other thing is like, yeah, even for executing those notebooks, you will call those notebooks from Azure Data Factory. That is when these both get integrated. Yeah,
Mhm.
we'll be covering those notebooks as part
And
of data.
what is the
Those
suppose if it is
that
a
note.
it is a
Hmm.
relational database and that we are copying from like our external sources is a relational database. So in our like during this tenure, which database we are using actually for to
So
show
it's
like
minus. Oh, in
sorry.
Azure, see, in Azure we'll be using. So basically, from on-premise we'll be moving the data once. I'll
Yeah.
be showing that only once.
Okay.
That actually even I need to download. So I'm not sure, like which thing I'll be downloading. I'll tell you regarding that.
Okay. Okay.
Only one practical will be shown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is moving the data from on-premise to cloud. So based on that topic, only one practical is there where you'll be moving the data from MySQL, I guess.
Okay.
So I
And we
should
are
check.
like in the notebook. So which
Hmm.
like which SQL we are using actually it's a plain ANSI SQL or Spark SQL like there are something will be there right like to execute the
They
queries.
are the notebooks. Yeah, in the notebooks you can write. You can use normal SQL or You can even use the Spark SQL, Python, PySpark,
Okay.
R.
So which one we are covering in this course?
Ah,
Which one we are covering? Like we are using SQL or like
this
using
using this PySpark.
PySpark actually? Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other doubts?
Uh, means how many course we have to means expand when we use the Azure data factory. Every time we got the reduce the money, or means when we use the only the service, then it charge the cost of this, service cost only.
So coming to the cost, see, whenever, so everything costs you. You create a pipeline and you won't execute it since you have saved. If you save the pipeline, it is present in your data factory. You will be cost for that saving. I mean, since your pipeline is saved in the Azure Data Factory, for its presence, it will be costed. You will be costed for its presence. So per execution, you will be costed. For the resources, you will be costed. For activity, how many activities you have used, based on that they'll be costing you. So for each and everything you do, you have cost for it.
Okay, okay. Uh,
Yeah, any more doubts?
Nothing, but what is tomorrow's agenda?
So tomorrow it's like practicals only.
Like, are you going to show something other activities or
Yeah.
other than copy activity or including copy activity? You are going to like whatever the activity you explained today.
So this copy activity will be mostly present. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
escape from. Yeah.
Okay,
So how to get this dynamic file names, and that is get metadata, and how
okay,
to get specific file names. So those scenarios we'll be discussing.
okay. And like these parameters, actually, we have not implemented in this first scenario, right? The
Yeah,
parameters.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So parameters is where if you want to pass anything during the runtime, then you will pass those value through these parameters.
Yeah,
So
true,
that
true.
concept we didn't cover. Yeah, we'll be covering that in
Okay.
upcoming classes. Yeah.
suppose we have a no 1 week data, first, second, third, fourth. So how to means we manage in this matlab, source to destination. We have to full load. We load the full data on ADLS, or we have to append the data. Means if
I did
you
not get
have
your question, Gaurav. Can you come again?
actually, I suppose we have a data in the 1, 2, 3, 4 days. So how to manage in the ADLS? We load the full data in ADLS, or we use the append data in a one file. How to use means copy the data from the block to storage. Suppose we have a 4 days data, day one data, day two data, day three data.
Yeah. So that is you're having four files.
Yes, yes, four files
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
of every days.
We'll be covering that. Yeah, we'll be covering that scenario.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. So to move the same, that is you're performing the same task again and again. So if you want to perform any task repetitively, then we'll be using this for each activity. So using that for each, we'll be moving all those files, four files. Yeah, we'll be covering that scenario.
okay. Fine.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Have a nice day. Thank you. Good night.